I've been married to my wife for 7 years. Together for 10. On paper, we were solid, shared mortgage, inside jokes, a dog that slept between us like a peace treaty. I used to think that meant something. Lately, though, everything felt slightly off, like walking through your own house in the dark and bumping into furniture that's always been there. It started small. She became sharp with me over nothing, snapping if I asked how her day was, rolling her eyes when I tried to talk about weekend plans. Her phone never left her hand, and if I walked into a room, it flipped face down instantly. She said I was being paranoid, that I was exhausting, that I needed to stop reading into things. I believed her, because believing her was easier than admitting the pit growing in my stomach might be right. She also started working late a lot. New projects, new pressure, same excuse. When I asked why she seemed distant, she laughed and said marriage isn't a rom-com and I needed to grow up. That stung, but I swallowed it. I told myself all couples hit rough patches. I told myself love meant patience. Looking back, that was the moment I chose comfort over truth. Once the doubt took root, I couldn't unsee it. Her routines changed overnight. She started dressing better for those late nights, wearing perfume she used to save for special occasions. Our shared calendar filled with vague entries like meeting or drinks with team, but she couldn't tell me who was actually going. She stopped asking about my day entirely. Conversations became transactional: bills, groceries, the dog. If I tried to touch her, she'd flinch or sigh like I was inconveniencing her. When I asked if something was wrong between us, she smirked and said I was insecure and projecting my issues onto her. That word, projecting, became her favorite shield. One night, she came home past midnight, slightly drunk, laughing at her phone in the kitchen. I asked what was so funny. She snapped, "Can I have one thing that's not about you?" Then she went to bed without another word. I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying every interaction from the past few months, wondering when I'd become the villain in my own marriage. I started keeping mental notes, not because I wanted proof, but because I needed to reassure myself I wasn't losing my mind. Every lie was small on its own. Together, they formed a pattern I was too scared to name. The turning point came on a random Tuesday. I got home early because my meeting was cancelled, something that almost never happens. Her car wasn't in the driveway. No big deal, she said she'd be late. But the house felt wrong. Too quiet. Too staged. Her laptop was open on the dining table, screen dim but still awake. I wasn't snooping at first. I went to close it so the dog wouldn't knock it over. That's when a message preview popped up in the corner. Just a name I didn't recognize and 3 words that made my chest lock up: "I miss last night." My hands started shaking. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Cousin. Co-worker. Inside joke. Anything. I clicked the screen, my heart pounding so hard I thought I'd throw up. The messages loaded slowly, like the universe wanted to savor it. There it was. Weeks of flirting. Jokes I'd never heard her laugh at with me. Complaints about how cold I'd become. Photos. Not explicit, but intimate enough that there was no misunderstanding. Plans. Hotel mentions. A life running parallel to mine. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just sat there, staring, feeling something solid crack inside me. By the time I heard her car pull into the driveway, I already knew nothing would ever be the same. I was still sitting at the table when she walked in, keys clattering, humming like it was any other night. She froze when she saw the laptop open. For half a second, pure panic flashed across her face. Then it vanished, replaced by irritation. "What are you doing on my computer?" she snapped, like that was the crime here. I asked her who he was. Calmly. Almost politely. She laughed, actually laughed, and said I was being dramatic, that it was a coworker joking around, that I always take things out of context. When I mentioned the hotel messages, her jaw tightened, but she didn't back down. She said it was just talk. Fantasy. Nothing physical. That I should be flattered she still chose to come home to me. The audacity of it made my head spin. I told her I'd read everything. All of it. She rolled her eyes and accused me of invading her privacy, of proving I didn't trust her. Somehow, in less than 5 minutes, I was the one on trial. She grabbed a glass of water, completely unfazed, and said, "You're blowing this up because you're bored with your own life." That's when I realized she wasn't sorry. She was annoyed she'd been caught. When calm denial didn't work, she shifted gears. Suddenly, she was upset but not guilty. She said I'd been emotionally unavailable for years, that I never really listened, that anyone would have sought attention elsewhere. The story kept changing, depending on what I pushed back on. First, it was just flirting. Then it was one stupid mistake. Then it was we only kissed. Each version contradicted the last, but she said them with such confidence it almost made me doubt my own memory. She accused me of interrogating her, of trying to control her narrative. At one point, she started crying, not the messy, broken kind, but the precise kind that comes with dramatic sighs and perfectly timed pauses. She said she felt trapped in our marriage, that I made her feel small, that I should have noticed she was unhappy. I asked why she never told me. She shrugged and said, "You wouldn't have handled it well." That hurt more than the cheating. Because it told me she'd already rewritten our entire relationship in her head, casting herself as the victim and me as the obstacle. By the end of the night, I felt like I was arguing with a stranger who knew all my weaknesses and used them like weapons. The real story didn't come out all at once. It leaked. Messy and unplanned. Her phone buzzed while she was in the shower. I wasn't even trying to look. It kept buzzing. Over and over. A name I now recognized. Curiosity gave way to exhaustion, and I checked it. One message. That was enough. "Did you tell him yet? I don't want to be your dirty secret forever." When she came out, towel wrapped tight, I held up the phone. She went pale. No anger this time. No sarcasm. Just silence. Then she sat on the bed and said, very quietly, "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." That's when she admitted they'd been seeing each other for 3 months. Hotels. Lunch breaks. Lies layered on top of lies. She said it started because he understood her and didn't judge her like I did. She said she planned to end it soon. She said a lot of things that sounded rehearsed. I asked her if she ever planned to tell me. She hesitated too long. Then she said, "I didn't want to hurt you." That was the moment the anger finally hit. Not explosive. Cold. Heavy. Because hurting me was exactly what she'd been doing, every single day, without a second thought. I didn't scream. I wanted to. Instead, I felt this pressure in my chest, like everything I'd held in for years was demanding release and had nowhere to go. She kept talking, trying to soften it, saying it just got out of hand, saying she still loved me, saying I was her safe place. Safe place. The words almost made me laugh. I asked her if she loved him. She said no too quickly. Then corrected herself and said it was complicated. That answer told me everything. I punched the bathroom door after she closed it, split my knuckle open, and felt nothing. Not pain. Not relief. Just emptiness. She accused me of being dramatic again, said my reaction proved why she kept things from me. That flipped a switch. I told her she didn't get to justify betrayal by criticizing my response to it. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before, like I'd broken character in the role she'd written for me. That night, I slept in the car. Not because she asked me to leave, but because I couldn't breathe in that house anymore. I sat in a parking lot until sunrise, realizing that rage is just grief wearing armor. The next few days felt unreal. We moved around each other like co-workers who hated each other but still had to share an office. She acted oddly cheerful, like if she kept things light enough, this could all be minimized. She even asked what I wanted for dinner, as if my world hadn't just imploded. Meanwhile, everything normal hurt. Brushing my teeth next to her empty sink spot. Seeing our wedding photo on the hallway wall. The dog whining because he didn't understand why I was sleeping on the couch now. I couldn't focus at work. I reread old messages from her, searching for the moment she stopped being mine. She told me she'd ended things with him. I didn't believe her. When I asked for proof, she scoffed and said trust had to start somewhere. That irony wasn't lost on me. Later that same night, her phone buzzed again. She turned it face down without checking it. Muscle memory. That's when it clicked. Even after being caught, she was still choosing secrecy. Still choosing herself. The affair wasn't just something she did. It was who she'd become. And I was just collateral damage in the process. I started doing things I never thought I would. Googling phrases like "Can a marriage survive infidelity" at 3 a.m. Replaying arguments in my head and wondering if I'd missed some obvious exit sign years ago. I hated myself for it, but part of me still wanted to fix this, like if I just found the right angle, the right words, I could rewind time. She noticed the shift and leaned into it. Suddenly she was affectionate again, touching my arm, calling me babe, reminding me of trips we used to talk about taking. She said we could go to counseling, that every marriage hits bumps, that this didn't have to define us. It felt less like remorse and more like damage control. When I asked if she'd block him completely, she hesitated. Said it felt extreme. Said she didn't like ultimatums. That hesitation killed whatever hope I had left. You don't protect a mistake. You bury it. I realized I wasn't bargaining with my wife anymore. I was bargaining with the memory of who I thought she was. And that version of her didn't exist. There wasn't a big explosion. No final screaming match. Just a moment of clarity that arrived without warning. She was in the kitchen, texting, smiling to herself. I asked who it was. She said a friend. The same tone she'd used 100 times before. Something inside me just settled. Like my mind finally accepted what my heart had been fighting. I pictured the rest of my life like this, doubting, checking, shrinking myself to avoid another fight. I realized I was already grieving the marriage while still living inside it. That felt worse than leaving. I told her I needed space. She rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic again, that I always ran when things got hard. I didn't argue. I just nodded. Packed a bag. She watched from the doorway, arms crossed, like she was waiting for me to apologize. When I closed the door behind me, my hands were shaking. But for the first time since the discovery, I could breathe. The silence felt heavy, but it didn't feel hostile. It felt honest. The first few days alone were brutal. I thought leaving would be relief, but instead, it was just raw emptiness. Memories of our life together hit me at odd moments, her laugh in the morning, the way she'd steal the blanket at night, even the little fights that used to feel insignificant. They all felt like punches now. Anger bubbled up unpredictably. I'd find myself replaying conversations, wondering how I missed the signs, how I could have been so blind. Then the sadness came, heavy and unrelenting. I cried in the shower, in my car, while walking the dog. I didn't want anyone to see me like that, but I couldn't stop. Sleep was impossible. Food didn't taste the same. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach dropped. It didn't matter that I had cut off contact, I still felt tethered to her choices, to the betrayal. But somewhere in the middle of that chaos, I started noticing tiny things. I could sit without my chest tightening, the mornings felt a little lighter, and my thoughts began to drift away from her. I was beginning, painfully slowly, to reclaim myself. A week later, she called. Not a text, an actual call. She wanted to talk things through. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity and some lingering attachment got the better of me. She sounded normal, almost friendly, like nothing had happened. She said she still cared about me, that she regretted the pain she caused, and that maybe we could try again, counseling, date nights, rebuilding trust. I listened, quiet, letting her words wash over me without responding. Then she slipped. A phrase, casual, unguarded, "I'm glad I have someone who understands me outside of you." That was the final confirmation. She wasn't sorry. She was selective with her remorse, apologizing only for how it made me feel, not for what she actually did. I realized then that whatever future she imagined for us included a version of me that forgave everything without consequence, and that person didn't exist. I hung up and felt lighter, even though my chest still ached. For the first time, I was fully aware that moving forward meant leaving her behind. I spent the next few days in quiet reflection, pacing my apartment, talking to friends, journaling, and just staring out the window. Every option I considered came down to one question: could I ever trust her again? The answer was a flat no. It wasn't about revenge or proving a point. It was about self-respect. I realized that staying even for love meant accepting a life of doubt, insecurity, and quiet humiliation. I wanted better for myself. I wanted to be with someone who chose me fully, not partially, not conditionally. So I made the decision. Separation. Divorce. A clean break. I told her clearly, I wasn't angry anymore, not in the way she expected. I was done. I would never cheat on myself by pretending the betrayal didn't happen. She tried to argue, tried to guilt me, but I didn't flinch. For the first time, I felt anchored in my own sense of reality, no matter how painful the aftermath would be. It was terrifying, but also liberating. The weight of the betrayal was still there, but I was finally holding it in my own hands, not hers. The weeks after making the decision were messy. Papers to sign, belongings to divide, awkward encounters with neighbors who didn't know what had happened. Some days I wanted to crawl back into bed and hide from the world. Other days, I forced myself out, walking the dog, going to the gym, talking to friends, anything to remind myself that life hadn't ended. I learned to sit with the pain without letting it define me. I allowed myself to grieve, but I also allowed myself to hope. I started noticing little joys again: coffee at sunrise, music I loved, laughter that didn't feel forced. The betrayal had left scars, but those scars reminded me I survived. Therapy helped. Friends helped. Even mundane routines, laundry, cooking, walking the dog, became small anchors in a storm that had once felt unending. I realized healing wasn't linear. Some days I was angry, some days I was sad, some days I felt numb. But slowly, I felt like I was reclaiming the life I thought she had stolen from me. Looking back now, the betrayal still stings, but it no longer controls me. I learned that love isn't enough when respect and honesty are missing. I also learned that ignoring red flags to preserve comfort only prolongs pain. I realized I can't change someone else's choices, but I can control how I respond to them. Choosing to walk away wasn't giving up, it was claiming my dignity, my peace, and my future. I also discovered strength I didn't know I had. I can grieve without collapsing, I can be angry without losing myself, and I can rebuild a life that feels whole again. Betrayal hurts like nothing else, but it can also become a mirror showing what matters most: your own self-respect, boundaries, and capacity to heal. If there's one piece of advice I'd give someone in a similar situation, trust your instincts, don't settle for partial loyalty, and remember that moving forward doesn't make you weak, it makes you brave.